Incredulous, Chapter 6, Odd Man Out. Quote, if you can't change the people you're with, change the people you're with. End quote. Anonymous. Safely aboard Defiant, Joshua was still shaken by what had transpired earlier that night. Tarek, when you were at the old church, did you hear any dogs barking? He asked, unsure if he should broach the subject. Let's just say that as a child I had a bad experience with those hellhounds, said Tarek. That deep, guttural, wolf-like howl woke me up on many nights. I could not have been more than 3 years old when I first heard it. After the first howl, I would lie with my eyes closed, listening to the pack as they got closer to my home. One moonlit night, the pack went silent in front of my house, and I made the mistake of looking out the window. What did you see? Asked a wide-eyed Aurora. I don't know what it was, but I will tell you that I began screaming when I saw it, he said to Aurora. I must have levitated across the room because I dropped to the floor on the other side of the room still screaming. My parents had a tough time getting me to open my eyes. On another night, when I heard the howling, I noticed the light in the kitchen. It was my mother. I startled her as I walked up behind her and asked if she could hear what I could hear coming. She nodded that she did. It had woken her up as well. I told her that on the night I had screamed, I had seen the thing that made that horrible sound. It was black in color, and its body was like that of a wolf, but with very short legs. It had long donkey-like ears, and its front teeth hung down like knives, much like a saber-toothed tiger, and they had an eerie white glow. Its large eyes glowed red, and there were little ones following it, like puppies. Deciding to change the conversation, Tarek turned towards Joshua and asked, while you were in touch with the Vatican, did anyone there have any idea what is causing the recent rise in demonic infestation? The Catholic Church is very conservative when it comes to matters involving the supernatural, Joshua replied. There are those in the Church who still cling to the belief that Christians cannot be demonized. I find that hard to believe when you consider that exorcists have been spread rather thin lately. The belief that Christians cannot be demonized might be true if they were filled with the Holy Spirit, explained Tarek. But as you know, most people who claim the title Christian only give lip service. How does one become an exorcist? Asked Raven. My first memories are of hauntings in the house where I grew up, said Tarek. Some children grow up wanting to be soldiers, policemen, or firemen. All I ever wanted to be was an exorcist. The specially ordained order of exorcists, also known as acolytes or doorkeepers, was established shortly before the middle of the 3rd century, said Joshua. Later, the Council of Carthage decreed the right of ordination for exorcists and provided a book containing the exact method of exorcism. What's an acolyte? Asked Aurora, excited. An acolyte is a layperson who assists the clergy by performing minor duties during religious services. But long ago, an acolyte was considered a student of forbidden knowledge, said Joshua in an ominous tone. Does that ancient book, the one Tarek brought back, have anything to do with exorcism? Asked Raven. The book is called the Rituale Romanum and contains the only formal exorcism rite sanctioned by the Roman Catholic Church, explained Joshua. It was written in 1614. The book contains a collection of prayers which must be publicly recited when it is believed that there is an influence of Satan over places, objects, or people. I have committed many of the prayers to memory. The Roman ritual of exorcism is thus an ancient form of prayer, but I am only permitted to recite the prayers if I am given permission by a bishop. This is where I disagree with exorcisms, Tarek interrupted. It is the main reason I left the priesthood. This is where the priesthood misses and misses badly. It is the power of God, not the energy of hype or recitation of ancient prayers that expels demons. Although I must admit, there have been times when the Holy Spirit has denied me permission to cast out a demon. I was told he called it in upon himself, and now God is dealing with him, confessed Tarek. Exorcisms are not performed by any power I possess, but by the authority I am under. Do you recall the story of the centurion at Capernaum who beseeched Christ to heal his servant? Yes, Jesus replied, I will come and heal him. But the centurion said to him, Lord, I am not worthy that thou should enter under my roof, but only say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I too am a man under authority, explained Tarek, continuing the verse, having under me soldiers, and I say to this one, Go, and he goeth, and I say to another, Come, and he cometh, and to my servant, Do this, and he does it. At which Jesus marveled and proclaimed, I have not found such great a faith in all of Israel. You're starting to lose me, admitted Joshua. Artemis tried to teach me that. He would refer to the man whose son Jesus' disciples couldn't heal. Jesus then rebuked the devil, and the child was cured. Later, his disciples came to him secretly and asked, Why could we not cast him out? Jesus replied, This kind is not cast out, but by prayer and fasting. Actually, Jesus never said fasting, nor did he say to use prayer during the exorcism. He made it quite clear that they failed because of their unbelief, Tarek assured him. The fasting part was added after by men who like to impress others with their ability to go without food. Joshua reflected for a moment, then said, Tarek, Artemis told me that the Vatican had a demonologist waiting for us back in Rome. What's a demonologist and what do they do? A demonologist is someone who studies and categorizes demons. Demonologists are not experts in the field of the paranormal, although some consider themselves to be. In my experience, I do not believe there are any experts where paranormal investigations are concerned. Demonologists usually study demonic hauntings, trying to catalog the origin, ethnic background, or geological area in which the demon manifests. I have yet to come across a demonologist who was also an exorcist. They are fascinated with demons, but this does not mean they actually believe they exist. You know, I never really viewed you as a priest, Tarek, said Raven. To me, priests are simply people appointed by religious organizations. You're more like a mystic. I'm not sure I even understand what a mystic is, said Joshua. What shamans, mystics, and prophets all have in common is that they are all self initiated, reluctantly at times, admitted Tarek. These individuals did not acquire their knowledge by being indoctrinated into secret brotherhoods. I discovered that searching for truth is a lot like playing hide and seek with an infant. When hiding from a child, one always leaves a shoe sticking out or an elbow protruding from behind a curtain so that the child will have some clue of where to look. When the child finds you, there's great laughter and joy. Then the game begins again. It is no different with our Creator. The Creator will never hide completely from His creation. Would one be considered a mystic, pondered Joshua, if the mystical experience he was having was not being sought? Isn't that usually how it happens? A paradox, by its very nature, is not meant to be understood. And the more I think I understand it, the less I am able to explain it. Joshua looked around and asked, Tarek, what exactly is this ship, and what was the ship that brought us here? We are on board Defiant, the flagship of this type of classification. The ship is basically a stealth treasure recovery submersible. The transport that brought us here was a Sea Wraith class battle dragon called the Sea Wolf. It is the equivalent of a Harrier vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. How did you make an airship appear invisible? Asked Joshua, not sure if Tarek would tell him. With our cloaking technology. Cloaking technology? I thought that was just science fiction, said Joshua, his eyes widening. Cloaking is quite real, Tarek assured him, although it is often referred to as masking by Black Ops. The battle dragons incorporate a large spectrum of warbirds. Most are engaged in what we call ghost wars. These ships have no ailerons. Their wings are constructed from bioplastics, memory-retaining polymers that change shape as energy is applied to them. The bioplastic allows the battle dragon's wings to bend, lengthen, or shorten in flight. This streamlines the craft and reduces drag. Think of bioplastics as artificial muscles that flex the structure. Instead of using one strip of material that bends when voltage is applied, we use many insulated sheets of material that contract when voltage is applied. The individual tendons work in unison, much like a human muscle. What sets the battle dragons apart from other craft is the fact that their pilots are able to interface their human brains with those of the AI, the onboard artificial intelligence computer. Interface is the word we coined. In order to couple with the onboard AIs, pilots require surgical implants that link to a special neural net interface helmet, explained Tarek. The artificial intelligence computers think so fast that to them humans appear to be in a coma. Only during combat or special ops missions are pilots required to become completely interlinked with their battle dragons. The AI interfaces with the pilot's visual receptors through technology borrowed from the development of artificial eyes. Battle dragons have no outer viewports. All visual data is transmitted by onboard cameras directly to the pilot's brain. This allows a pilot to use infrared or night vision when necessary. The artificial intelligence computer projects technical readouts, battle grids, enemy positions, and targeting information directly to the pilot's brain in a 360-degree virtual reality. When the pilot melds with his ship, he literally becomes one with the warbird. The onboard sensor arrays allow him to see in all directions at once. The length of time a pilot can maintain this mental state of awareness is completely dependent on the stamina of their cognitive functions. A battle dragon pilot's senses are brutally taxed during combat. Our pilots can only maintain this completely immersed state of perception for about 15 to 20 minutes. The better a pilot's conditioning, the longer he can maintain the altered state of awareness. Sometimes during training, pilots will lose consciousness. When this happens, the AI co-pilot assumes command. This is not a problem because during actual combat, battle dragons are incredibly lethal. Not only do battle dragon artificial intelligence computers link up with each other, so do the minds of the pilots, added Raven. In the development of these craft, we discovered that the structure of the human brain is actually wired for connection, or rather, interaction with other human brains. Human brains have a tremendous amount of redundancy. A human brain is capable of completely rewriting itself in order to learn new things. Also, there are other advantages. If a combat pilot loses peripheral vision in one eye, that is not the end of his or her career. When one of our pilots lost her peripheral vision in one eye, her flying and fighting capabilities were unaltered because she did not need her eyes to pilot the craft. How can one not need to see in order to fly? As I said before, Tarek reminded Joshua, battle dragons do not have viewports. All visual information is fed directly to the brain's visual cortex through the neural net interface helmet. These helmets are not mass produced. Each helmet is custom fitted to its pilot. Each pilot seat is custom made as well. If the aviator is left handed, which most are, all instrumentation is reversed. If during the course of simulation training the pilot prefers a different instrumentation layout, that too can be readily accomplished. All instrumentation housings follow a uniform standard and are easily interchangeable. Another fascinating feature of the Battle Dragon is that their command chair sits inside an anti-gravity gyro assembly. The command chairs gyrate in order to reduce the G-force experienced by the pilot. You can pull all kinds of Gs, pop some rivets, as our aviators like to say, and you will hardly feel a thing, added Raven. Plus, the helmets are air cooled in case you start to break a sweat. If your body begins to heat up too much from the adrenaline, cool water is circulated through your armpits, crotch, and torso areas in an effort to control the core body temperature. The mind's ability to function at an optimum level is severely impeded when it has to correct for adverse physical conditions. One thing I can say about our commander, Tarek, is that he wants you to have every possible advantage. Raven, tell him about the onboard generators, said Monique. Are you familiar with random event generators? REGs, those little devices that emit random bits of information? I've heard of them. Colleges sometimes use them on ESP experiments, I think, answered Joshua. In one experiment, the subject dons a pair of headphones and listens to clicks in both ears. He is then given instructions to cause more clicks to occur in, say, the right ear. What's fascinating about this experiment is that the participant has to use his mind to try and affect the outcome. Every one of our pilots is required to undergo this test. First, the subject dons a set of headphones. The subject must decide every 5 minutes for a total of 30 minutes on which side of the headphone he or she will hear the most clicks. In the final phases of training, the pilots believe they are listening to the output of a random event generator. What they are actually listening to is a recording of an REG's output, an output that was recorded 24 hours earlier. In other words, the subject affected the REG's output one day before they listened to it. Oops, Raven looked around sheepishly. Maybe I shouldn't have told you that. Now you'll be expecting us to give you that test, should you decide to become a pilot. We've sort of duplicated Princeton University's Global Consciousness Project, added Tarek. The project linked 40 REGs worldwide through the internet. Computers combined the 40 inputs and produced the typical flat line. The first major response came on 6 September 1997, before the funeral of Princess Diana. They discovered through experimentation that the whole system of random generators displayed a significant deviation from randomness towards order hours before unexpected global events attracted a tremendous amount of human attention. It seems that when humanity is united in thought, the randomness of the universe begins to follow some sort of order. The worldwide network of REGs began deviating from randomness towards order 4 hours before the first airplane hit the Twin Towers in the September 11th attacks in 2001. It happened 24 hours before the 2004 tsunami, and it happened again with the Japanese earthquake and the subsequent reactor breach. The system has since been increased to 65 REGs. Antares has random event generators running at every base and on every ship. When they deviate from their randomness, we go on full alert, said Tarek. With hours of advance notice, our remote viewers were capable of pinpointing the locations of the earthquakes in Haiti, Chile, and Japan hours in advance. Japanese officials were warned of the reactor breach, but they dismissed the warnings as nonsense. You may be wondering why this is important to the pilot of a battle dragon, asked Monique. We have discovered through our own experimentation that our ace pilots could somehow sense or detect that an enemy was about to engage them. Onboard random generators give our aviators a 6-second warning, alerting them to the unseen dangers. Imagine having one of these in your family vehicle, said Raven. When the warning sounded, the driver would become more alert to other vehicles and pedestrians on the sidewalk. He would pay more attention to kids playing with balls, on bikes or skateboards. A driver could guard against the possibility of someone pulling out in front of him unexpectedly. We tested these in the United States, and they warn you before a police officer or an automated device clocks your vehicle's speed. I don't leave home without it.